What is food security? Many at times we confuse this concept with agriculture. Many feel that with agriculture there is food security. Food security exists when all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. In this channel, I will try to address, I will explain, I will let you understand what is food security and what is agriculture and what is all people, all times, physical and social economic access to safe and nutritious food so that we understand. Some of us have seen reports like that of Kada Harmonize here on this slide, in which it shows the food and nutrition situation. It's showing the current and projected situation, October, December, with the projected June to August. We know why this projection, why these colors, and the population, the numbers that are there. So during the course of this training on this channel, I will let us understand. So the student of agriculture, those that are in agri-economics, policy makers, decision makers, will come to understand what is food security and to appreciate it. Most times, people feel when fertilizer are made available with tractors, that is food security. When people have access to farm, that is food security. But we come to understand more in this channel as I try to do justice to food security because it is hard to feed the growing population despite spendings on agriculture. Government has been spending most time. Government feels they have been spending, putting more in terms of money into agriculture, yet people are hungry. We now understand the link between food security, what is livelihood, the things people do to earn a living, based on the livelihood zone, linking it to hazard and vulnerability. What are those hazards? And then we now know the key drivers or the factors limiting or constraining the attainment of food security. Some of these things are constraining to the attainment of food security based on their impacts on the four elements or four pillars of food security, which are availability. We understand this channel what is availability. We'll look into it, and then the indicators on the availability. Also, on the accessibility. What is accessibility? How can it be improved? How does it affect food security? Also look at utilization, including water. How does water play a role? Even water and sanitation health, and even on morbidity, how does it affect utilization and its relationship to food security? Basic, underlying, and immediate causes will come to understand. And then stability. What is stability? Political stability, economic stability. All these things we'll look into during and in this channel. So the relationship between this element and its understanding is critical if we really want to do justice, for us to understand what are these limiting factors and how it drives or militates attainment of food security. And then there are methods for assessing food security. We know what are these methods that are used in assessing food security. We have the method and then the indicators and other things will also be discussed. We need to understand we have qualitative method that look at experience of food insecurity and hunger. We also have FAO has its own method. We have HVS, and then we have dietary energy supply, DES. We have individual dietary survey, in which individual intake related to requirement in terms of the sphere standard is calculated in terms of calorie per person per day. And why it cannot be attained, we will not know, and why. Then we also have household income and expenditure survey, where dietary diversity and percentage of household total expenditure on food is taken into account as indicator to measure and to assess food insecurity. World Food Program have what is known as the essential need assessment, where people, how people meet them and why there are gaps or constraints meeting them. It gives us insight into food security to know the drivers and how it's connected with meeting other needs. Then we have anthropometry, where underweight, weight for height is measured. And then stunted children are known. And not only that, body mass index for adults. And for children too, MOAC is used in direct measure. Just as you can see on the screen, the MOAC tape is all ways of assessing food insecurity. So the indicators for measuring food security is critical for assessing and monitoring food security, yet it is difficult to comprehend. And in this channel, I will try and I will do justice to help us to understand what is FCS, that is food consumption score, what is household hunger score. These are outcome indicators. And what is household dietary diversity score? We have students in agriculture, agroeconomists, and many. They need to understand, even those that are in working with NGOs and others need to understand what are all these indicators, including reduced coping strategy index. What's the difference between coping strategy, reduced coping strategy index, and coping strategy index? Body mass index, what is it? House of food insecurity assessment, all this experience scale. We understand what is women dietary diversity score, what is stunting, what is MOAC, made upper arm circumference, and individual dietary diversity. Just as a brief, food consumption score is a composite indicator that measures dietary diversity, food frequency, and relative nutritional importance. It has a recall period of 7 days. Comparing it to the livelihood coupon strategy, which has a recall period of 30 days, is an indicator to measure the extent of livelihood coping household utilized as a response to lack of food or money to purchase food. We will come to understand this in this channel. So food and nutrition security has two outcomes. The first one is primary outcome and secondary outcome. The primary outcome are into two. We have the food consumption. The food consumption type, we have the food consumption score, household hunger score, reduced coping strategy, and household dietary diversity. These are direct evidence. While we have caloric peroxide, which is an indirect evidence. You will understand what is caloric peroxide as you follow me on this channel. Then also understand what is evolution of livelihood. Under it, we have the livelihood coping strategy. And then the secondary outcome, we have the nutritional status, where we look at GAM, weight for height, as direct, and then we look at MOAC, and then body mass index. MOAC is an indirect, while GAM, weight for height, is a direct measure. And then we look at mortality, crude death rate, and under 5 mortality. All these are indicators we use in food insecurity assessment. And what are the tools for classification of an area? You might have seen the colors at the beginning of this presentation. You'll see more. So we have two tools that we'll be discussing. The first one is the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, which is an innovative multi-partner initiative for improving food security, nutrition analysis, and decision making. In Nigeria, we use the Acute Malnutrition, AMA. We use it. And then secondly, we have the CADA harmonization, which is known as the Harmonized Framework. It's a set of functions and protocols for analyzing the severity of acute food and nutrition insecurity to inform decision making, because the purpose of every food security analysis is to help us make informed decisions about appropriate urgent responses that need to be taken to avert or as an early warning to during or when we have food or nutrition crisis. You'll see on the slide severity classes. Food security has 5 phases. 1 is known, 2 is stress, 3 crisis, 4 emergency, 5 catastrophe or famine. We'll see what these colors and these phases mean and what it all relates to, and how we will now know when we see a map like this, as can be seen on the screen. You can see different colors. You see yellow and brown. What does it mean? What is the meaning of those colors? And how can it help when it comes to intervention, when it comes to decision making? So that our decision makers and students of agriculture, agri-economics, extension, and those that are involved in NGO and other humanitarian actors will now know and interpret when they see this map. Subscribe to this channel, because the intervention continues when CHOIPC is done. We will come to understand and answer some questions. The first is response analysis. We need to know, where do you respond? What are the areas to be prioritized? It is with analysis when CHOIPC is done as part of food security or food insecurity analysis, then we now know the areas to prioritize. What are the response planning? What do we plan? How do we plan? In doing this, we now identify and then implement adequate, effective, and efficient action need to be taken so that we now know where those people are. Then response implementation has to do with operationalization of the responses that were planned in effective manner because coordination saves lives. And then there will be monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation has to do with collecting the data from the field to ensure that implementation of the target beneficiaries or outcomes are achieved. This is all that we will understand too as we subscribe to this channel. You will come to understand this. The purpose of all this is to answer the following fundamental question. Because more often than not, when there are disaster or when there's insecurity, food insecurity or situation, people want to know when there's an emergency, how serious is the situation? We will understand how CHOIPC will help us to understand and then will help us to know where to prioritize. Then how many people are affected? We come to know how we used to come about the numbers of these people, how we now target them. And then when should you intervene, the time to intervene? And why should we intervene? Why? Because more often than not, people want to influence where intervention will go. As you follow me on this channel, you know where prioritization can be done, where we need to intervene first. And they will also know what are the determining and limiting factors. You know what are these drivers, what are the causes, what are those risks, what makes the people to be vulnerable. So it will help inform decision making so the actors can now take, if it is building resilience, if it is monitoring those factors so that it will now be monitored so that people will not be predisposed to it further. And then we'll also come to know for whom should we intervene and with what action. Is it input? Is it livelihood? Is it building resilience? We will come to understand this channel because after CHIPC analysis, it will shape humanitarian response by government, agencies of the United Nations such as the FAO and World Food Program and other NGOs because CADA harmonization report shows number of people that are to face acute food shortages, and in this it will now elicit donors and response, and it will also help with humanitarian response planning and humanitarian needs survey because the information, the population from the analysis will help to know those that are in these various phases, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, for intervention to be done at the right time to save life. So food security depends on adequate and stable food availability with access to adequate and appropriate food for proper use and good health to ensure that the individual consumers enjoy the full nutritional benefit of availability and access. Anything devoid of this is not food security, whereas agriculture has to do with investment, such as in land size, expansion, crop diversity, improved irrigation to livestock breed, planting drought-tolerant crops. All this is aimed at reducing price and to boost or to bring about income variability, as well as provide nutritional improved food or to give better diet. While productivity gains are key to food security, however, we will come to understand why with agricultural production, yes, some are food insecure. So I will give tutorials and explain in details in this channel so that you will be conversant with what is food security in relation to agriculture. So I will urge you, I will appeal that you need to like, comment, share,